The sky over Lagos Lagoon was dark and angry, its thunder rumbling like a warning from deep beneath the ocean floor. Rain threatened to fall, but it was the rising tide that unsettled the children more. They were on a school trip meant to be a harmless science excursion to the water's edge, but the atmosphere turned heavy as if the sea itself held its breath. 13-year-old Zina stood apart from the group, her school sandals sinking into the wet sand. Her uniform clung to her thin frame, and her sketchbook was tucked tightly under her arm. Her eyes stared blankly into the crashing waves, but there was something else, something no one else seemed to see. From the churning water, a scream pierced the ear. One of her classmates, Kemi, had wandered too close to the edge. A powerful wave snatched her from the shore like a toy, dragging her into the foamy surf. Children began to scream. A teacher shouted for help, but Zina didn't move. She stood as if rooted to the ground, lips trembling, eyes wide with horror, but no panic. No, it was something stranger, she whispered, almost inaudibly. She's here. She's taking her. The teacher lunged toward her. Zina, help her. What are you doing? Zina slowly turned her head, her face pale. I told you not to come, she said in a small shaking voice. She warned me last night. Then, as if summoned, the waves swallowed Kemi whole. Screams erupted behind Zina, but she didn't join them. Her gaze was fixed on the ocean, unblinking, and just before the water settled, her lips moved again. Mermaid. The house was silent, except for the ticking of a plastic wall clock and the rustling of pages. Zina sat hunched over a small table, her pencil moving furiously across the paper. The only light came from a flickering candle. Page after page was filled with drawings, mermaids with haunting eyes, tangled hair like seaweed, and mouths opened as if they were singing. Her mother stood at the doorway, arms folded, watching in frustration. Zina, again? She said. Every night this week, you are drawing those water creatures. Is this what you want to do with your life? Fill your head with madness? Zina didn't answer. She rarely spoke these days. Ever since her father died at the same beach 2 years ago, during a protest against a construction company dumping waste into the ocean, Zina's words had dried up like a shoreline in drought. She sits by my window, Zina said suddenly, her voice low and steady. At night, she ums. Her mother froze. Ooh, the mermaid. The room went still. The candle flickered, casting shadows on the wall. She says someone will drown, Zina added, looking up for the first time. She's angry. Her mother's voice hardened. Zina, stop this. Don't let the devil use your mind. You need to pray. Zina closed her sketchbook, but outside the cracked window pane, the rain began to fall, and behind the glass, something moved. Something neither loud nor human, something with hair like black ribbons trailing through water. Only Zina saw it, or so she believed. It happened fast, so fast that the screams hadn't even reached the teachers before she went under. 1 second, Kemi was laughing, running barefoot across the edge of the Lagos Lagoon, her braids whipping in the wind. The next second, she was gone, dragged, snatched by a wave that seemed to rise unnaturally high, as if pulled by something beneath, not the wind. She hadn't even made a sound before the water swallowed her. Children screamed and scattered. Teachers ran, but Zina didn't move. She stood barefoot in the wet sand, her white socks soaked, her sketchbook clutched tightly to her chest. Her face was blank. No panic, no shock, just silence. Cold, eerie silence. One of the teachers grabbed her by the arm. Zina, didn't you see her? Say something. Zina slowly looked up, her eyes glassy. I warned you not to come here, she said calmly. The teacher frowned. What? What are you talking about? She told me someone would drown today, Zina whispered. She was right. Who told you? Zina's grip on her sketchbook tightened. The mermaid. Thunder cracked loudly across the sky. Behind her, the water rippled unnaturally, bubbling as though something had just slipped away beneath the surface. The search for Kemi would last for hours. The authorities would come, drones, drivers, boats, but they would never find a body. And from that day, everyone said Zina had lost her mind. But Zina knew exactly what she saw, and what she saw wasn't human. After the chaos on the shore, Zina was sent home early. The school was silent in her absence, but the whispers were loud. Teachers exchanged worried looks, classmates avoided her gaze, and the news reporters circled like vultures, hungry for a sensational story. At home, the atmosphere was heavier than the Lagos humidity. Her mother, Ifeyiwa, paced the small living room, her face worn with sleepless nights and worry. "Zina," she said one evening, voice trembling, "you have to tell me the truth. Who is this mermaid you keep speaking of? Is this some game to cover what happened at the lagoon?" Zina sat on the worn sofa, her hands trembling as she held her sketchbook. The pages were filled with delicate drawings of a mermaid, her eyes sad, her hair flowing like black waves. But these were not the colorful mermaids from children's books. These were creatures of shadow, loneliness, and warning. "It's not a game, Mama," Zina said quietly. "She is real to me. She comes to me when I'm alone. She sings, but her song is sad. She is angry at the water and at people who don't listen." Ifeyiwa sighed, brushing a stray lock of hair from Zina's face. "You are still grieving, baby. You saw things, bad things, when your father died. The ocean took him. Maybe your mind is trying to make sense of the pain." But Zina shook her head. "No, Mama. It's more than grief. The mermaid showed me Kemi before it happened, and she's not done." At night, Zina's silence grew deeper. She stopped talking altogether. Even her drawings became darker, shadows creeping into the edges of her pages, mermaids twisting in agony. At school, teachers labeled her troubled. Some parents whispered she was cursed. Children laughed behind her back. But inside Zina's mind, a storm raged fiercer than any thunder outside. The mermaid's song haunted her dreams, pulling her closer to the water's edge, where secrets waited beneath the waves. And no one believed her. Days after Kemi's disappearance, Zina became more withdrawn. Her school bag was heavier with notebooks she barely opened. Instead, her fingers always found their way back to the sketchbook, where the mermaid's image grew darker and more urgent. One afternoon, Zina sat alone by the riverbank, staring into the slow-moving water. The murmur of the current mixed with a faint melody, almost like a song. Soft but haunting, she closed her eyes and heard the voice again, clearer this time. "They will not listen, but I will show them." Suddenly, the water rippled violently, and for a split second, Zina thought she saw the silhouette of a woman beneath the surface, long hair swelling like seaweed, eyes glowing with sorrow and warning. She blinked. Nothing. When she returned to school, she tried to tell her classmates about the mermaid's warning, but they mocked her. "Zina, stop lying. Kemi drowned because she was careless, not because of some fairy tale," one girl sneered. The teacher spoke with concern, but avoided discussing the mermaid. Even her mother's worry deepened into fear. Ifeyiwa started locking windows at night, hoping to keep whatever haunted Zina away. But Zina's mind twisted tighter around the warnings. She started having nightmares, visions of more classmates slipping into water, faces distorted with terror. At home, her sketches took on new forms, the mermaid reaching out, her hands bloodied, her eyes full of grief and fury. One night, Zina's mother found her, whispering to the empty room. "They don't believe me," Zina said. "But I can see it. I can hear her calling. Someone else will disappear." Ifeyiwa's heart ached. but she had no answers. She just held her daughter tightly, silently praying the nightmare would end. Mr. Adewale, the school science teacher, was known for his strict discipline and no-nonsense attitude. He had no time for fairy tales or ghost stories. When Zina first told him about the mermaid, he dismissed it as a child's imagination. And then something strange happened. One rainy afternoon, while the students were indoors during a storm, Mr. Adewale stayed late to prepare lessons. He glanced out the classroom window facing the lagoon and saw something that stopped his breath, a pale flickering figure just beneath the water's surface. It wasn't fully visible, but the long flowing hair and haunting eyes matched the description Zina had given him. He blinked. It was gone. That night, Mr. Adewale couldn't shake the image. Was it a trick of the rain or something else? The next day, he quietly asked Zina questions about what she saw, when, how. He listened without judgment for the first time. Meanwhile, at home, Ifeanyiwa found a strange wet footprint by the front door. It was too large for Zina and too shapeless to be human. She thought she was imagining things until her neighbors whispered about strange lights and sounds coming from the lagoon at night. Just when everyone was trying to bury the tragedy, another student, Tunde, disappeared from the school premises under mysterious circumstances. No one knew where he went, but the water near the lagoon was disturbed again. The town was gripped by fear. Zina was certain the mermaid was behind it, but now, with Mr. Adewale's quiet support going, the line between nightmare and reality started to blur for everyone. Zina's world grew smaller and darker. Her closest friends, once a source of laughter and warmth, began to distance themselves. Whispers followed her through school corridors like shadows. Is she crazy or cursed? One girl muttered. Maybe she made Kemi disappear. Another joked coldly. The loneliness crushed her, but what hurt more was the creeping doubt inside her own mind. The mermaid's voice was no longer just a warning. It was a presence inside her, a whisper in her thoughts. At night, Zina struggled to separate dreams from reality. She saw the mermaid everywhere, in reflections, in water stains, even in the flicker of street lights. One evening, alone in her room, she felt a sudden sharp pain in her chest. Panic flooded her, but then the mermaid's voice came, not angry, but pleading. Help me. Confused, Zina scrambled to her sketchbook. Her drawings now showed a different story, a trapped soul beneath the waves, begging for release. Meanwhile, Mr. Adewale faced his own crisis. Haunted by his glimpse of the mermaid, he started researching old town legends, uncovering long-buried stories of disappearances linked to the lagoon. But the deeper he dug, the more danger crept closer. Strange phone calls, a shadow watching his house at night. Back at school, the tension exploded when one of Zina's former friends, Maya, publicly accused her of lying to cover up a terrible secret about Kemi. The accusation spread like wildfire, leaving Zina broken but more determined than ever. I'm not crazy, she whispered to herself, and I will prove it before it's too late. At home, the atmosphere grew colder with each passing day. Ifeanyiwa, once a warm and loving mother, was now a shadow of herself, haunted by worry, sleepless nights, and whispered fears. She tried to hold her family together, but cracks were widening. Zina's little brother, Emeka, barely spoke. He refused to play outside and flinched at every sound. The house felt heavy, as if the air itself carried grief. One evening, Ifeanyiwa sat Zina down, her voice breaking. Zina, I'm scared for you, for all of us. Zina looked at her mother, eyes wide but tired. Why didn't you tell me about father's death, about the lagoon? Ifeanyiwa hesitated, then confessed the story no one had dared speak of before. Your father didn't just drown, she whispered. There were rumors, things people saw that no one wanted to believe. Some said the lagoon, it's cursed, that the mermaid you speak of is a guardian, at the warning. Zina's heart pounded. Why didn't you tell me before? Because I wanted to protect you, Ifeanyiwa said, tears slipping down her cheeks. But now, I think you were meant to see this, to warn us. That night, Zina found her mother sitting by the window, staring out at the dark water. Their family's silence was broken, not by comfort, but by a shared fear, a fear that the past was clawing its way back, and no one was safe. Zina realized that the mermaid wasn't just a figure of her mind or grief, it was a symbol of their family's secrets, their fears, and the consequences of buried truths. The next morning, Zina woke with a restless fire burning inside her. The shadows in her room seemed less intimidating now, replaced by a fierce determination. She knew the truth was buried somewhere in her family's past, and it was time to uncover it. With shaky hands, she pulled out an old photo album her mother had hidden away. A dusty book filled with faded pictures of her father, a strong man with kind eyes, standing by the lagoon. At school, Zina began asking questions. Carefully and quietly, she approached the elderly neighbors, teachers who had known her father, and even the local fishermen. Each story she had painted a different picture. Some spoke of an accident, others hinted at something darker, whispers of disputes over land, mysterious disappearances, and a warning that the lagoon was not to be trusted. But the most chilling tale came from Mama Nkechi, an old woman who lived near the water. Your father saw something, Mama Nkechi said, her voice low and trembling. Something he shouldn't have. They say he tried to warn the village. The lagoon, it takes those who disrespect it. The mermaid is a skipper. Zina's heart raised. That evening, she confronted her mother. Why didn't you tell me any of this before? Ifeanyiwa looked away, pain flickering in her eyes. Because I was afraid. Afraid that knowing would break you like it broke me. Zina reached out, her voice steady despite the storm inside. I need to face it, Mama. I need to understand so this doesn't keep happening. Ifeanyiwa nodded slowly, tears falling silently. Together, they promised to face the past and the dark secrets that had haunted their family for generations. Just as Zina and Ifeanyiwa felt ready to dig deeper, a knock came at the door late one night. Standing there was Mr. Adewale, the science teacher who had been quietly investigating the lagoon's mysteries. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood Uncle Obi, Ifeanyiwa's estranged brother, long believed to have left the village years ago. His eyes were cold, unreadable. I have been watching you, Uncle Obi said quietly. There are things about your father's death you don't know. Things that could destroy this family if they came out. Zina's breath caught. Mr. Adewale stepped forward. We've uncovered evidence that someone in this family may have been involved in what happened at the lagoon. Someone desperate enough to hide the truth, even if it meant losing a life. Ifeanyiwa's face paled. Secrets she buried years ago were no longer safe. The mermaid's warning wasn't just about the lagoon, it was about a betrayal close to home. Zina realized that the battle wasn't just with the mysterious waters, it was with the shadows inside her own family. The room felt colder, heavier as Uncle Obi stepped inside, eyes scanning Zina and Ifeanyiwa like he was weighing their worth. I left because I couldn't stand the lies anymore, he said, voice low but firm. And now you are digging where you shouldn't. Ifeanyiwa clenched her fists, trembling. What do you mean, Obi? What lies? Uncle Obi's gaze hardened. Your father, Zina, Mr. Adewale, and Ifeanyiwa huddled around a flickering lamp, poring over the documents they had uncovered, proof that could bring down the powerful council behind her father's death. Suddenly, a sharp knock shattered the quiet. Zina froze. Mr. Adewale whispered, Stay calm. Don't open the door. But the knocking grew louder, more urgent. Then, through the thin walls, a low, threatening voice called out, We know what you're up to. Stop digging, or you will disappear like your father. A cold fear gripped them all. Their warnings were no longer whispers from the past. They were real, immediate threats. Zina's hands trembled, but her eyes burned with resolve. "We can't back down now," she said firmly. "If we don't fight, nothing will change." As the shadows outside thickened, so did their courage. The mermaid's warning had become a call to action, and Zina was ready to face whatever darkness came next. Under the cover of darkness, Zina, Mr. Adewale, and the Fenyiwa slipped quietly toward the lagoon, the place where truth and danger intertwined. Their breath misted in the cold night air. Every step felt heavier, every shadow a potential threat. Suddenly, headlights blazed behind them. A group of men in dark suits, agents of the corrupt council, blocked their path. "Turn back," the leader warned, voice low and menacing. "This is your last chance." Zina stepped forward, heart pounding, but voice steady. "We have proof. The village deserves to know the truth." The men laughed coldly, but before they could move, a sudden splash erupted from the lagoon. A figure emerged, a silhouette shimmering in the moonlight. It was the mermaid, or something like her, half water, half light. The men faltered, fear flashing in their eyes. The mermaid's voice echoed, not in words, but a silent, powerful warning that rippled through the night. Zina felt a calm wash over her, as if the spirit of the lagoon stood with her. With newfound courage, she raised the document's eye. "This ends tonight." The men retreated into the darkness, and in that moment, Zina knew the mermaid wasn't just a symbol of fear, but of strength, truth, and the power to change even the darkest tides. As the men disappeared into the night, Zina and her family breathed a tentative sigh of relief. But just as they began to turn away from the lagoon, a soft voice whispered from the water, "Zina." She froze. The shimmery figure of the mermaid flickered again, and this time the face was unmistakably familiar. It was her father's face, not just a spirit or symbol, but something far more. The mermaid faded slowly, leaving behind a small, intricately carved shell on the shore. Zina picked it up, trembling. Inside the shell was a tiny folded note, written in her father's handwriting. "Truth is not always what it seems. Protect those you love, even from the past." Suddenly, Zina understood the real battle wasn't just with the corrupt council, it was with the shadows of her own family's hidden secrets, some darker than she could have imagined. And the mermaid's warning was far from over. In the quiet aftermath, Zina stood at the edge of the lagoon, the carved shell warm in her hand. Tears streamed down her face, not from sorrow, but from release. For years, she had carried the weight of loss, silence, and doubt. Now, she felt the first real breeze of freedom. Her mother wrapped an arm around her, their bond stronger than ever. "If your father were here," Ifeyiwa whispered, "he would be proud of the courage you have shown." Zina nodded, heart swelling with both pain and hope. The village would never be the same, and neither would she. But with truth finally out and the shadows beginning to lift, Zina knew this was just the start of a new chapter, one where she could shape her own story. The mermaid's mystery remained, but now it was a symbol of strength, resilience, and the power to face the unknown. As dawn broke, Zina smiled through her tears. She was ready to live and to finally be believed.